Good morning. This is Bill from out of Europa, Naples, and today I have a nice peaceful Florida morning. There's no birds running around or ducks, or I had to drive through a whole pool of ducks last night. That was just a little bit disconcerting. But anyway, they're gone now, they're not around, and everyone's happy. I do have this 2016 Buick Regal GS. Buick is kind of an interesting car company, and it's a car company that has a place kind of near and dear to my heart. My first, real car job was at Sunshine Buick here in Naples back in the very early 1990s. I was a lot boy there. I kind of really enjoyed driving the used cars around. Some of the new cars, I was stationed in the used car department, but you did have to take a new car out every once in a while. We do these dealer trades where you'd have to drive a low mileage new car to some dealer a few hours north and take something back because they needed one that we had, or who cared? Boring stuff. Anyway, so I got into Buicks, and, this was the time when the Buick Grand National was still pretty fresh in everybody's heads. That was that, 85 through 87 kind of two-door Regal coupe that, began as the T-Type and developed into this sort of unbelievably quick, certainly for that time period, muscle car, all black inside and out, very badass, and still today sought after. Buick had, at that time, sort of rejuvenated its image from, being a car of real old fuddy-duddy types to, being something that guys who wanted to go fast had. But it hadn't totally rejuvenated it. And it's funny because that struggle still goes on today. I tried to get my sister in a Buick Enclave not too long ago, a couple years ago. Took in a really nice low-mileage late model one, and she just couldn't do it because one of her friends said something about, did you borrow your dad's car? And, I thought it was pretty offensive, and she ended up going with some ridiculous vehicle that I can't remember what the hell it was, but it was ridiculous compared to the Buick. So Buick has been fighting that. They've been trying to become a more youthful company. Some people would argue that it was dumb for General Motors to kill Pontiac and leave Buick because Buick and Cadillac are so close. And, of course, Pontiac was off doing its own thing. Anyway, here it is. This is a 2016 Buick Regal GS. Now, the Regal name goes back, at this point, 6 generations. This was the 5th generation. The GS goes back, again, very much beyond that. There were GS models decades and decades ago. And GS does stand for Grand Sport. Back in the day, that meant you got a big 4-barrel carburetor or two. You got, 4-speed, transmission. You got posi traction rear end, headers, that sort of thing. Now you get a button. You get a button on a 4-cylinder turbo car, but we'll get into that in a minute. You can see the styling is quite nice. This thing is essentially German. It's the GM Epsilon platform. The original Buick, Regals from this generation were built in Germany back in, 2009, 10. It does have a lot of the German road manners. I mean, this thing was designed to be an Autobahn cruiser. And of course, now they're built in America, also China. They're just, the Regal is a pretty damn popular car because it's always just been considered a very good car. And this one seems to be no exception. I'm going to be upfront and tell you, I didn't spend much time getting to know this thing. I came home late from a 3-day trip last night. We picked up a little car outside of Savannah, which was, frankly, a fantastic place to have to pick up a car because you get to do a night in Savannah. Then we hit St. Augustine on the way home. I drank from the Fountain of Youth, which had a revolting taste, but I do need every little bit of help I can get. The good thing about it is, and this is where it's all going to come together here. I know I'm jumping around a bit, but I've got a couple things to get out. I did visit the Medieval Torture Museum in Savannah, and this has given me some fantastic ideas for how to discipline some of the guys here at work, starting with our detail. Now you can see that this thing, when I got it last night, it had this really thick tire dressing that hadn't been wiped down. So now that tire dressing is residing down the side of the car, which is not truly where it's supposed to be. Also, I was a detailer many, many years ago. It's not something I like to admit to. Oh, it's fine. It's a great job. But anyway, in the first week, the first 3 days of detailing, I learned that it was probably a good idea to remove the advertising from other dealerships before bolting on the advertising from your own. So after 20 years in the business, you think our guy might get that. That said, he doesn't or doesn't care to, so in comes the stuff that I learned from the Medieval Torture Museum. I took photos, so it's all recorded. I won't forget any details, and we'll see how tomorrow's details go. Anyway, up front, you can see GS model gives you this very nice black grille. It gives you these very fantastic-looking xenon high-intensity headlamps. You've got some real great venting down there at the bottom with these two giant intakes. They are actually functional. The ones over there that might purport to cool the brakes are not functional, but at least some of them are. And it's a very handsome front end with the three shields there. The Buick logo, everything looking pretty good. It's got these factory 19-inch wheels, which are handsome. There is an optional 20-inch wheel, but I just don't like the look of it. It makes the car look like it's got aftermarket rims, and they're chrome. It's the only color they come in, and it just doesn't do it for me. Here up on the hood is a classic Buick styling Q. That is called the, what the hell is that thing called? The Ventaport. It started back in 48, 49. An engineer or a styling guy, I think his name was Bob Funk. What a great name. He went to his boss, now I'm forgetting, Ned Nichols or something. Anyway, classic Buick stylist. And they had this idea of putting 4 or 5 little fender ports in the side of the Roadmaster fenders that would connect to the spark plugs and light up amber as the car went through its firing order, thus sort of impersonating the exhaust on a fighter jet. Very, very cool stuff. That actually did make its way onto the Roadmaster, sans the amber lighting, which is a shame because who doesn't want to simulate like a P-51 Mustang going down the road? But anyway, it became a Buick styling Q for many, many years. The first ones were functional, and from there on out, they really haven't been, nor are they functional on this one. So you can call it silly, and frankly, it is a bit silly, but it is, something Buick's tipping the hat to their past from. All right, let's start getting inside this thing. A very nice little slimline rear spoiler back here. Very handsome LED rope style taillights. They light up quite nice. You can see the lovely job of detailing on the rear exhaust. The way it's been integrated into the bumper is quite nice. You got a great little pinchy thing under the blacked out Buick logo. Very nice deep trunk. The rear seats do fold down. You've got a cargo net here to keep your stuff from rolling around. You see I got all my crap with me today, including a model of a 1960 Lotus Elite. It's a new one for my desk. I have a 930 turbo, but all these savage kids keep picking it up and smashing it back down to the ground. And that was a very fancy auto art model that's now in bits. So I'm going with cheapies for the desk because, kids just can't be controlled. That's why I think many of them should be caged. Have a look under the hood here. Okay, so, again, coming from an era when a Buick GS meant big V8s and, big 4 barrels and all that. Look at this again with the detailing. Oh, my God. Oh, Jesus. Anyway. Coming from that era with the big V8s and the 4 speeds and the posi tracks, this is all a bit wonky to me, but of course it's the future. So, this 2-liter turbocharged Ecotec 4-cylinder puts out 259 horsepower, true 259, which probably beat most of the Buick muscle cars in the past in terms of acceleration and power. Oh, what a weird world. Anyway, it's a terrific motor, of course, European inspired and Autobahn tested. Very, very peppy. You've got 0 to 60 times well under 7 seconds. Nice smooth shifting and, very good gas mileage to go along with it. So it's a charmer of an engine. Very reliable and a nice thing to see under the hood if you're into these sort of modern turbocharged things. In fact, very similar in class to the new BMW 320s or 328s with the also with the 4-cylinder turbo. So this is just the way things are going. A few years ago, this would have been a big 6, nice and smooth, but it would have gotten crappier gas mileage and, just not been as advanced as this thing is. I do like the little stainless and aluminum touches everywhere, the hoses, it all looks very nice. This thing has just 18,000 miles, so it's like new under there and all very pretty. Have a look in the back seat. We've got some kind of keyless entry thing going. So beautiful rich leather, lovely white contrasting stitching, very, very comfy place to sit. Not a ton of leg room, but enough. You're not going to be crying too much if you're a Canadian on vacation back there. Buick does have good quality control. They have nice materials. I mean, the mosquitoes flying around. That guy went in there. He's going to hide out and bite me a dozen times before I get to work. Anyway, nice fit and finish with the stitching, the switches, the materials. Buick does that very, very well, and they have for years. They're one of the GM products that was good even when the other ones were really crappy. It does have fold-down rear seating. Very, very nice. I think our detailer got lucky that was already clean because I doubt he put that down. God, I'm just not chipper with him today. Anyway, very functional utilitarian backseat that manages to look good and sporty at the same time. I'm going to dig in my pockets and try and pull out the keys because I think, oh God, everything's hard. Oh, those 3 days were lovely. They were really, really nice, especially to get away for that day in the middle of all the driving and, dick around St. Augustine for a while. What a pretty city. So now I have to come back to reality and find out all the bad crap that's been going on. So I'm going to lock the car with this. I'm going to press this. Let's see, once does anything. No, maybe twice. Not a thing. Let's just see if we hold it. Absolutely nothing, so I'm sure it's got a remote start. How could it not? Unlock it again. There we go. All right, so it does have remote start. Nice feature. You guys know what it does. It keeps you cool in the summer, hot in the winter when the weather's bad outside. You can get all the climate control going from inside your house or job. You see it as, again, on this GS, big Brembo Brit. Look at the size of those dinner plates behind the wheel. And thank God they're not red. They resisted the temptation to do that. And looking really good there. So they do work well, and they pull this car down to a stop really quick. You also have a giant shark fin antenna up there. I mean, that thing's Steven Spielberg levels. Top in. Okay, now inside you can see the beautiful sort of Buick styling continues. Very austere, they've avoided the temptation to go very ostentatious on this car. It is a nice, sporty, European style look to it. Lovely piano black, nice, it's all plasticky, but it's nice plastic. You got, again, these faux leather inserts here, your window switches, molded door pocket down there to put stuff. What kind of radio we got? We got a Bose radio. And all very nice and sporty. Also, these seats are quite nice. Being the GS, you get kind of a sporty looking seat with big bolsters. It does manage to be very, very comfy and at the same time not offensive to sit in, trying to be too sporty. So they did a good job with that. We also got some kind of racy looking aluminum pedals down there. All right, so foot on the brake. Everything's coming to life here. I don't know if I did that. Yeah, let's see. Hit the start stop. There we go. And obviously it's going to beep at me for a little while. Let me get my seatbelt on. Also get a little AC going. It's muggy as hell this morning. Okay, so thank God this thing isn't a manual. I found out the other day it's hard to use this new camera with a manual transmission. This wraparound dash thing, that's also sort of a Buick styling cue for a while. I'm not sure if it goes back decades. Forgive me, I just don't remember. It definitely goes back to 1992 when I was working at Sunshine Buick. All the Park Avenues and Rivieras did it. You know, I don't think the Roadmasters did a little bit. God, I loved those things. I still love them today. Buick Roadmaster, what a fine car that was. This big, giant, full-frame thing with 9 cup holders and 8 seats. You just couldn't go wrong. But the days of the Roadmaster are gone, and here's the Regal. So there's a very nicely laid out instrument cluster. You've got 2 sort of traditional gauges on the left and right, and then a big digital gauge in the middle that can be all moved around. You know, it manages to be very cool without being very inspiring. So I don't get that. I don't know what I've done here. That's cruise control. How the heck do I go through this stuff? I did this earlier. Okay, there we go. So then you can get what comes up in the center. I've got the nav going there. You can do the phone, the audio, the performance. See what performance looks like. And we've got our oil temperature, oil pressure. So it gives you full gauges, voltmeter, trans fluid temp. There you go. Oil temp again. Oil pressure again. Okay, so that's where you get your full gauges, the GS stuff. You got automatic headlights over here. Again, beautiful fat steering wheel, lovely to grip, nice leather, nice multifunction controls on the wheels. You got your cruise control and your infotainment stuff. Over here you've got Buick's in-dash infotainment. Very nicely, they have retained a tuning and a volume knob. That's one of my minimum requirements in cars these days, just so I know how the hell to turn it up or down. When you hit the home button, you get all the different apps. I guess that's what they have now, are apps instead of functions. It gives you your navigation. I'm not sure what projection is. Let's see what that is. Projection device not connected. Connect supported. Okay, well, I got you. That's AppleCarPlay. So if you plug that thing in to your USB, you can get all of your Apple crap up there in the dashboard without having to bother syncing your phone. Works out nice. Very attractive nav too. If you zoom in, which let's see if I can zoom in. I think it makes everything kind of real three-dimensional. Except it doesn't, at least not here. Okay, anyway, very nice stuff. You put it in reverse, you get a rear camera. Lovely, what you'd expect. You see the mailbox back there. I had a little bit of a mailbox incident where, you know, the kids playing the baseball. And I tell you, I don't know what's wrong with kids today, but, you know, in my day when you play mailbox baseball, you hit the mailbox, you didn't hit the post. I mean, I don't know if it's a snowflake thing or, you know, their aim is bad or they just don't grow up with sports or they get participation trophies or, you know, whatever it is. But look, here's a little tip, kids. If you're going out to play mailbox baseball, hit the damn mailbox. It's the point of the whole thing. Anyway, you got dual side climate control down here. Very nice. You've got heated seats. Very lovely chrome looking shifter. You've got the silver and the chrome. It all works quite well together with the black leather. Little place to put stuff. Everything has a electric parking brake these days. Not something I quite understand. I don't know. I mean, I just don't feel like this is something I want to yank at emergency. You got a place for cup holders. You got a little place for stuff there. That's where you plug in your USB. And, very, very nice stuff. Now, up top, you've got a sport button and a GS button, which I think is even fancier than sport. And one thing I like about it is you can actually feel it. When you hit that button, it changes the rev points, the shift points, changes the way the whole car feels, becomes much more lively. I see I've got a battery warning now, so we're probably going to die as we're doing this. Point being, though, that I tell you what, this is a really nice sporty car to drive. I mean, if you're a guy looking at a 3 Series, you're going to have to give this thing a ponder. This one's front-wheel drive, but it does come in all-wheel drive form, if that's what you like. It's got more torque than a Subaru WRX, so it's pretty peppy. And, man, it does go down the road beautifully. Buick didn't sacrifice their ride completely. There's no, you don't feel every joint in the road. So it does have a little bit of a cushy ride, which a Buick has to do. But at the same time, it does have very nice, sporty, responsive steering that's been tightened tightened up with the button, and you know, really does drive quite lovely. So anyway, with the battery glowing red at me, I'm going to cut this kind of short. I've been rambling for 20 minutes, and you know, get my head together, get some coffee, go into work, and find out all the miserable things that have been left for me to handle. So thank you very much for having a look today. I appreciate it. This again is a 2016 Buick Regal Grand Sport, triple black, nice car, no stories, 19,000 miles, and frankly much more youthful and modern than that Buick you know, has any right to be. So if you have an interest, give us a call, 239-649-7300, on the web at mercedesexpert.com.